My name is Avery Scott. I'm 36 years old. And on the night my parents threw a black tie anniversary party for their 40th year of successful marriage, I stood just outside the Coralview Resort's glowing gates, gift in hand, watching my father say the words I knew were coming. You're not on the list. No emotion, no hesitation, just protocol, like I was some unconfirmed +1 at a gala I wasn't good enough to attend. The string quartet behind him played Clair de Lune, while waitstaff circled with champagne flutes. Fairy lights flickered above manicured hedges. It was the kind of place you book to show people how well you're doing, even if you're barely speaking at home. I held up a small black box tied with a silver ribbon. It's for Mom, first edition, the short story collection she used to read to us. He didn't take it. You should have RSVP'd, he said. There's a process. I emailed Brooke. She said you'd canceled. Of course she did. Inside, through the archway of white rose columns, I spotted my sister Brooke holding court near the welcome banner. She wore champagne silk and her election campaign smile, the kind that only stretched when there was someone important watching. She turned her head slightly, saw me, looked away. And that was the thing. This wasn't an oversight. It was a performance. One where I was written out of the scene before the curtain ever lifted. I get it, I said. Calm, controlled. I know the part I'm supposed to play. I placed the gift gently on the edge of the welcome table and took a breath to leave. Then someone behind me said, "Wait, that's my boss." I paused. The voice came again, clearer this time. Nervous but undeniable. She's not just my girlfriend's sister. She's the VP of Ops at Redline Systems. I turned. There he was, Caleb, Brooke's boyfriend, in a well-tailored charcoal suit, suddenly very aware of how many people were watching him. A woman from the guest list gasped. One of Dad's clients looked confused. Several cousins stopped mid-conversation. Caleb stepped forward. "I report to her," he said, glancing at my father. "Just FYI." The silence stretched like glass, then a soft clink. Someone had set their champagne down too hard. I raised one eyebrow, looked back at Dad. His mouth opened, then closed. He glanced toward Brooke, who was now frozen in place, clutching her glass a little too tightly. For the first time in a long time, I smiled. Not the bitter smile, not the "it's fine, I'm used to it" smile. Just a clean, quiet, inconvenient smile. "Nice to see you, Caleb," I said. And just like that, the narrative began to unravel. Brooke wasn't used to improvising. She built her world in clean lines and curated invitations. She hosted things, never faced them. So when Caleb opened his mouth and said something no one in this family expected to hear, I watched it land on her like a tipped glass of red wine across a white tablecloth. From across the patio she moved. Not walked, glided in a way only women raised on praise and Pilates could. Eyes locked on Jessie, smile unchanged, heels slicing through flagstone. "Hey babe," she sang through gritted teeth. "Can I borrow you for just a second?" Jessie hesitated. Someone near the bar whispered, "Is that true? He works for her." I didn't need to turn around to know which aunt said it. I could hear the pearl clutch in her voice. My father stepped in. "Inside, both of you." Jessie looked between him and Brooke, then over to me. For a second, he seemed to consider walking my way. But Brooke's hand had already looped through his arm like a leash. They disappeared through the side doors, trailing silence. "Damn," Lila whispered beside me. "That was not on the run of show." I exhaled slowly. My fingers tingled from how hard I'd been gripping my own wrist. "Should have brought popcorn," I muttered. Lila laughed. "You doing okay?" I gave her a look. "You saw that right, the list, the door." "Everyone saw that," she said. "And now they're seeing something else." I looked back toward the welcome table. My gift was still there. Unclaimed, like me. But now the air had changed. Brooke returned alone, her smile now lacquered on like a failing stage set. She walked straight up to me. "Avery," she said, too loud, too bright. "So nice to see you." Jessie was just confused. About what I asked. She blinked. "You RSVP'd, no?" No, I emailed you 2 weeks ago. I must have missed it. Her tone softened, now faux caring. You know how those filters are. I didn't flinch. You filtered me out. On purpose. Don't be dramatic. Don't be fake. Her mouth twitched. Look, this night is about mom and dad. Okay, let's not hijack it with one of your soapbox moments. I didn't make a scene. I left. Your boyfriend made a scene by telling the truth. Brooke's eyes flicked toward the guest, then narrowed. You're not invited in Avery. I tilted my head. Because I didn't go to law school or because I didn't stay in Chicago and join the family PR firm. You know exactly why. She tried to spin away. But I caught her arm, not hard, just enough to pause her. Do you know, I said quietly, that Jesse transferred departments last month because of me. Said he wanted to learn from someone who didn't build their career on family favors. Brooke's nostrils flared. You think you're better than us? No, I said. I think I got tired of asking permission to exist. She didn't reply. She just shook her head, muttering something about attention-seeking, and vanished toward the patio bar. More guests had turned now, not openly, but just enough. I saw it in the way Uncle Greg stopped refilling his glass, in how Mom's best friend Camille narrowed her eyes like a woman who just realized the play she bought tickets to had a different lead actress. Then Jesse reappeared, this time not in shadows. He walked up to me directly, adjusting his collar like someone about to give a quarterly report. I need to say something, he said, voice firm, but low. In front of everyone. I raised an eyebrow. You sure this crowd's allergic to public surprises? Then good thing I'm immune to family politics. And before I could stop him, he turned face the patio full of extended relatives, board members, and social climbers, and said, just so we're clear, Avery isn't just my girlfriend's sister. She's the reason I moved to Boston. She leads the ops team that just saved our company's international division. And if you think someone like that doesn't deserve an invitation tonight, maybe check who's been sending your holiday bonuses. The patio froze. Even the cello player missed a note. Behind us, Brooke dropped her glass. And I didn't say a thing. Because when the system turns against you, sometimes the most powerful move is letting someone else flip the table. The silence after Jesse spoke wasn't awkward. It was seismic. Like a courtroom where someone had just confessed to the crime everyone suspected, but no one dared name. He didn't flinch, didn't smirk. He simply stood there, hands in his pockets, as if he'd just reported a spreadsheet error, not detonated a family hierarchy. All around us, people were doing mental math. The whispers came first. A tremor down the line of cousins, then across the wine table where Mom's yoga friends stood blinking. Someone finally muttered, "She's with Redline," another replied. "That's their new VP, isn't it?" The expansion in Singapore, Brooke had frozen mid-step, eyes wide, and blinking fast like a system buffering. Her voice, usually weapon-grade in these settings, refused to come online. Jesse turned back to me. That's all he said gently. It wasn't all. Not even close. Aunt Naomi, the family's unofficial gatekeeper of reputation, stepped toward me like a woman, stepping off a cliff she didn't realize was there. "I had no idea," she said. "Why didn't your parents mention?" I shrugged. "Hard to brag about someone you say doesn't show up." Naomi winced. "Well, that changes things. It shouldn't have taken a title to change anything, but I wasn't here for moral victories. I was here for the truth. And if status was the only currency they understood, then fine. Let's transact." Then the one person I hadn't dared expect to appear did. My mother. Marion Scott, in navy silk and pearl earrings, stepped out onto the patio from the far entrance. The party stuttered. Half the guests turned, parting like water around her. She didn't move fast. But she moved with that same quiet force I remembered from childhood. The kind of stillness that shut down chaos without raising its voice. When she saw me, she stopped. Her eyes, soft gray, not yet clouded by time, widened. "Avery." I opened my mouth to speak. Nothing came out. She crossed the space between us in 20 seconds that felt like 20 years. When she reached me, she didn't ask why I was here. She didn't ask about Jesse or Brooke or the guest list. She just looked down at the gift still resting on the welcome table. "You wrapped it in silver," she whispered. It matched the edition, I said. First printing, the one you used to read from when you couldn't sleep. She reached for it with shaking hands, fingers grazing the edge of the bow like it was holy. Then she looked up at me. Did you come alone? I nodded. And they didn't let you in, hesitated. But Jessie stepped in. Her father stopped her at the entrance. Said she wasn't on the list. My mother closed her eyes. A long breath escaped her lips like she was trying to exhale the last 10 years. Then without looking at anyone else, she looped her arm through mine. Well, she said clearly, voice calm but cutting. She's on my list. You could hear the air realign. Conversations faltered. A few guests stepped backward, unsure whether to clap or pretend to adjust their ties. My father appeared fuming behind the string lights. But Mom didn't stop walking. She led me forward past Brooke, who didn't move past Naomi, past everyone who had looked away one too many times, into the party, into the light. And for the first time in a decade, I walked beside my mother, as someone she chose to be seen with. The room my mother led me into wasn't large, just a side lounge, velvet chairs, dim sconces, a vase of white orchids trying too hard. It smelled like lemon water and expensive diffusers. She closed the door behind us and didn't speak for a full minute. I didn't either. Some silences are traps. This one felt like permission. When she finally turned to me, her hands were clasped together, not shaking, just tight, like she was trying to hold something in that had been rattling for years. You emailed Brooke, she asked. I nodded. 2 weeks ago, she told me you were launching in Europe this week. Said you didn't have time. I moved the meeting. I wanted to be here. She inhaled sharply. Sat down. I didn't plan the guest list, she said. No, I replied. But you trusted the one who did. That landed. She looked up at me, no defenses left. You think I chose her over you. I don't think that I said sitting across from her. I know it. She blinked. It was never that simple. I know, it's worse. Because it's always been quiet, polite, like exclusion by politeness doesn't count. She flinched. I never said you weren't welcome, but you never asked why I stopped coming. Her mouth parted, but I cut her off gently. Do you know what that silence says to someone, Mom? That their presence is optional? That their absence is convenient? I thought you were happy, successful. You never asked for help. I didn't ask for permission either, I said. And somehow that made me dangerous. She let that hang in the air. Then is it true? Her voice barely above a whisper. What Jessie said, that you saved a company. Part of a team, I replied. But yeah, I built the ops structure that kept us from collapsing last year. Her eyes filled, but not the weepy kind. The kind where awe catches up to guilt. I used to worry you'd get swallowed out there, she said. I did, I said. Then I built a bridge back. A silence. Then she asked, why didn't you tell me I did? You just stopped listening when Brooke rephrased it. Her face crumpled, not in sadness, but recognition. God, she whispered. Have I been that blind? No, I said. You've been comfortable, and sometimes comfort makes cowards of people. She leaned forward and took my hand. Her fingers were smaller than I remembered. I want to fix it. You can't, I said, but you can stop pretending it never cracked. A long beat. Then, what do we do now? I exhaled. We start with something small, a dinner, not a show, not a curated photo op. Just you and me, somewhere neutral, we talk. She nodded, and Brooke, she asked. She's not ready, I said. She might never be, but that's her work, not yours. My mother stood, smoothed her dress. I'm proud of you, Avery, not just for what you built, but for how you stood there tonight, like you owned the room. I smiled faintly. Technically, Jessie did that part. She grinned genuinely this time. I like him. I don't think Brooke does anymore. She'll survive. I stood too, and for the first time in years, my mother didn't feel like a hallway I had to walk through. She felt like a door I'd finally opened on my own terms. When we re-entered the reception, the cello had stopped. In its place, that strange quiet where everyone pretends to be in a conversation, but all the eyes are watching you. Brooke stood near the cake table, glass in hand, frozen mid-sip. Her jaw clenched so tightly, I wondered how the champagne got past her teeth. Jessie was nowhere in sight. Dad was still by the welcome arch, talking to one of the planners with forced calm. Like maybe if he rearranged enough chairs, he could put the night back in order. Too late. I stood beside Mom as she walked with quiet authority toward the mic stand near the dance floor. It was time for the toast, my cue to slip out. But she turned to me and said, "Stay." So I did. Mom raised her glass. "Thank you all for being here tonight to celebrate 40 years with Robert and me." She began, her voice warm but firmer than usual. "We've seen a lot of seasons in those years. Success, struggle, change." She glanced at me then, just briefly, but it was enough for the room to catch it. "And tonight," she continued, "I'm grateful for everyone who made time to be present, not just physically, but truthfully." A pause. "To the ones who showed up despite not being on a list." The words dropped like coins into water. Brooke's smile cracked. Mom turned to her. "Brooke, would you like to say a few words too?" I swear I saw her flinch. But Brooke stepped up, all polished PR instincts. "Of course. Thank you, Mom, and..." Well, she looked out at the crowd. "Thank you all for joining us. I'm sure this evening has had surprises." A few polite chuckles. "But at the end of the day, we're still a family," she added. "Even when we disagree. Even when some of us choose different paths." Her eyes locked on mine for that one. And that's when I realized she still thought this was her narrative. Still thought she was winning. So I took a step forward. Not to grab the mic, just enough to raise my glass. Someone handed me one. I didn't check what was inside. "To different paths," I said loudly enough. "And the buildings we build on them." The crowd went still again. Brooke narrowed her eyes. I kept going. I wasn't on the list tonight. Not by accident. Not by oversight. By choice, someone else's. But I came anyway, not to make a scene, but to leave a gift. I nodded toward the welcome table. My name's not on the guest sheet, but it is on the new downtown tower you all keep taking selfies in front of. Floor 47, my office. Level 10, the innovation lab I founded. The lobby cafe, my team designed the experience menu. Gasps now, murmurs. I turned to Mom. "I built something, Mom. Something real." And I stopped waiting for anyone to clap. Then I turned back to the room, to Brooke. "You don't have to like my path. You don't even have to understand it. But you will no longer rewrite it." Then I smiled, not cruel, not smug, just honest. And if anyone's wondering how that's possible without your approval, I raised the glass, because you taught me resilience. You just didn't expect I'd use it on you. Silence. Then a single clink. Jesse, emerging from the side, raised his own glass. "To Avery," he said. More clinks followed. One by one, some unsure, some emphatic. Then quietly, Mom raised hers, to what she built. Brooke stood, frozen glass still in hand. But this time it wasn't champagne she tasted. It was the unfamiliar flavor of irrelevance. And I finally toasted myself. I stayed just long enough for the music to resume. Not for anyone else's benefit, just mine. Just to hear something other than the silence I'd lived with since I was 19. And decided not to major in law like Brooke, not to come home that one Thanksgiving, not to shrink. Now the string quartet started again, soft and disjointed at first, like they weren't sure if it was appropriate. I walked past the bar where someone whispered, "She really owns the building," and another voice replied, "That explains the marble elevators." I didn't stop to correct them. On my way out, I passed the welcome table. The gift box was gone, so someone Mom had taken it. Good, I kept walking. At the valet station, Jesse was already there, hands in his pockets, expression complicated. "I'm sorry," he said before I could speak. "I didn't mean to. You did exactly what you should have," I cut in. He looked relieved. "I just couldn't pretend anymore." I nodded. "I know. That's why you'll do fine at the company. Pretending doesn't scale." He chuckled. "Does this mean I'm not getting fired?" "Depends how long you keep dating my sister." We both laughed, light and quick and exhausted. My car pulled up, glossy and understated. The valet handed me the keys, then paused. "Miss Scott," he said. Someone asked me to give you this." He held out a small envelope. Heavy stock, handwritten name, inside one single key, and a folded note short enough to memorize. "You always had your own way in, Mom." I stared at the key in my palm. Not symbolic, real. It belonged to the lake house, our family's summer place 2 hours north, where I learned to swim, to read, to sneak out and stargaze. I hadn't been there in a decade. I slipped the key into my clutch without a word. "Everything okay?" Jesse asked. "Yeah," I said, opening the car door. For the first time in a long while. He nodded, then hesitated. "Avery, yeah, that toast, the building one." I raised an eyebrow. "Too much no," he said. It was the first time anyone ever looked at Brooke and didn't believe her. I smiled. "That's because I didn't ask them to." He opened the door wider. "Where to now?" I paused, then said it clearly out loud, as if it were just another line of code. I'd written back to my life, where I'm already enough. The door closed. The car pulled forward. And in the mirror, the coral view faded behind me, warm lights, curated flowers, the weight of someone else's story finally slipping off my shoulders. I didn't leave shattered. I left whole.